Nsia bi ma hwefo nyina chi e mama kwa abaide ba XTV anopa no nsia kase so enne ya wada enne ya umobosom ni deto so edunumie nsa wa fimpimie ne edunumienu no emu emro so nsensem akoso ye ma emu amahodro so nsema ye saka no ya boaboa ni nyina na so ne so se krogin a ye de ebrew se anopa no nsia kase e wo XTV eso efrin kamponi mantemu poko ase festos adun plaza building mo sanson sa okopie mu e wa barefoot intakase no so Facebook XTVGH YouTube XTV Ghana TikTok XTV 391 Instagram XTV Ghana Twitter XTV Ghana ena no pe insemne de edoso ne mo na poso ne bi ene se opani a wono ekane osoafo anaka wo hwe enyirima hode ho nsem so onyanyam ne buache ejakon wa kyerɛkyerɛ se wo mutu aba ede manu no beye mampeni ewo mai Ghana mu a kwan obefa so a katahye predwum kankan obetu ase kra ewo omai Ghana mu sanso ewo nsamfufuru mu no Dr. Nyaho Tamakro wode atodwa ese wo mampeni nana adodan kwakufu ado no wo ye nipa bi a mampeni bi a wonte ne pasem so oti a mafo asem pa kansem a ekosoi akasese waye bibi kra de afa ho de daada no wo pani ba ko benso echemu se adenti ena Ghana mampeni nana adodan kwakufu ado onyonyam ni sara adwasafo san ne suban bonne ne nyama bonya wo ye nyina wontimi enyi ne dibra emfemfiri ne nsem a wo soso no so sa wo bisase aden asara adwasafo no o mampeni wakoji sike bi ewo ne ho ana ne nyina ewo kaseboyi mu a ye de ebrew nsem ne de edoso kakra bi ena mapo ne ho ede ama wo no afegibre na memfa kaseboyi de wo mankasa emfama obapa me visa ko so ate enimedi ka me ho fiti semri akopem se 625 bebo na kaseboyi wo ha no ye de ne nyina ede ebemo ye nsem na asedia na ekane wosoafo ananka wono ene hwe enyirma hode ho nsam so wopani buachi ejakon ye nyina yenim sa abre no nanka wo yosoafo an wo hwe enyirma hode ho nsam so nanso ameriday ho nsem yi eba ye omampani na adodan kwakufu ado yi no de sinchen no ebepem na enya de yesanso ede ne dibre no ama no bi ne senti no sei no wono so abone homode ye nyina yenim se NPP amanyokuo no wo mo abom homode mpeso so abato ya ba wo mu eto aba efiefie na o ma hwempanifo a wo betimi edi amanyokuo no enim na de da wo an ewo enim a wo mu ehwe enim ese wono be ye frankatufo ede ama amanyokuo no emre no so a obebiara na nije ho no obetimi akwakọ peke forms na eno nti na buachi ejakon de atodwa se wono ne kwa dopa se ebie nomination se nne na ye pe won na ompeso mutu franka edima NPP amanyokuo na wono ene nipa odika ya obekwa peke forms na wode atodwa echiremu se wo ba o man Ghana mu a katahye predwum kankan edware ye papa o mampeni biere ni o man Ghana mu a wetimi eto ase na so wono de wo kyerɛkyerɛ ye kwan a wo befa so a se nyankopon ye nadom na wo be ye mampeni e wo man Ghana mu katahye predwum kankan obeto ase e wo man Ghana mu.
Corruption is a huge problem, human nature. So when I sat at the Bank of New York and I looked at the numbers, I was probably, my P&L was probably a little over $1 trillion on a daily basis. My write-offs or set-asides, I with this X-signature could set aside or write off probably $150,000 on a daily basis. These were all temptations, right? Wow. So have you seen this TikTok, the black hole?
I'm not too sure.
Where a guy discovers a piece of paper and he puts it down and he can reach into things that are locked. So wow, so he sees the safe and puts it on the safe and he's able to reach into the safe and start taking, he took all the money, then he entered the safe himself. And then the paper fell off. So he couldn't come out. Right. The temptations are there. But I also knew that the bank had systems where by 4:15, right, any malfeasance will be caught. The fear of being caught in itself is the restraint. So we have to put in systems that can tell you what is going on almost in real time. And when you are caught, the punishment must be obvious, right? Measurable punishment so that it serves as instructions to the many. Corruption is a huge problem, human nature. So when I sat at the Bank of New York and I looked at the numbers, I was probably, my P&L was probably a little over $1 trillion on a daily basis. My write-offs or set-asides, I, with this X-signature, could set aside or write off probably $150,000 on a daily basis. These were all temptations, right? Wow. So have you seen this TikTok, the black hole?
I'm not too sure.
Where a guy discovers a piece of paper and he puts it down and he can reach into things that are locked. So wow, so he sees the safe and puts it on the safe and he's able to reach into the safe and start taking.
You know, I can you swap for no account and a shame my wadin some so a watchy a jacon and a waka sano. Now, yes, one some no so dear a canny NPP cabinet minister a your penny quajo a jada con no so dear to just say. So share dear coso a just for be ye busum be brainy, I won't be pimo a war mashibe jifin. One also was also your swap for washer and Kalane in my year dear mo kan koso anso wakwakotena brechi memu e na nyema nsem fata e ne wo keka e wo honom a wo ye e wo honom wonti ase nenti abepem ne gana mampani na adodan kwakufado wono ankasa entimi ngina ne nanso enkase sera edwasafo sese no magye udibre e de efre wonsem afenso wo bekre se eye domi kwabenya abato mpeso aso akonwa na wo honom no obibia ne kwando se wo se wo gina no ombegina ne yanto ne so aba wo nim nenti gana mampani why din a wo hwe de e koso e na manu sinti na Ghana fo nyina e bo ne subo se wombo no ma XTV e to sansem so e de mo
no ye MPP amanyoko ne mrahye bedwani e wosunyane West efri afia pema hankono enso edikosi afimpenu ene nkromu Ghana mampanyi na nadanko Kofo se ye a oswafo awono ene hye ema ne mema ne mofra ye die so Sarah Adwasafo atumu e wo mrahye bedwafie na ne dibrese oswafo no wonye ye a wonyi na die ne die enya die se wone no eye adwen opanyini ye jeida ko edi kan ye oswafo ye no hye akwan ene akwantemponso etwe eno be ye oswafo awono ene hye efomagudi to so esanso ebeye oswafo awhwe amamu nketwa so metwe local government minister wodi to just say Ghana mampanyini na nadodanko Kofo e kamia ese na swafo a wodi dibrashe wono nsem no wahye wo mutatu ya adwuma no kura no wontimi enye
media ya na me pese me comparison because but area ba ko no mechanism it looks say the government is making the ministers too comfortable because for 6 years no reshuffle. Minister no ya dey say nkorana. I told you mines because there were a lot of at least kakra me no kan yi. Who said now ideas ba ya matima bo even you too diluted salt because of the way I was championing salt production. But the ministers are becoming too comfortable, including even Adwasafo, who has been away for almost 1 year. At America, sir, actually, WhatsApp, so ne Twitter, so now so that's your minister.
And wachi ebusan se ene yia sa o man Ghana e to ababie mu a amanyoko ben ene osu se wonum ebenya edom kase e wo emrahye bedwafie odi to dwa se eye MPP amanyoko ene de wampopo ne tikura o chese amanyoko no e wani so ade hunu nanso de betimi abo wonum efompa eye wonum abato mpesu ya wodo so wa amanyoko ni mu a oyire o manfo kete eyi mpanimfo a wo bededa amanyoko na no e wo mantemu abra wo ma delegates no ankasa ento won so aba.
this setback because of the leadership of the party. But the group will be a leadership, no. It behave say, Kwesi Mensah ye peno, nti ono na ye de na eko. Without considering say Kwesi Mensah no, nipa dom na ewo constituency no, epena sema na mumpe. We behave say akunwa ne ye dia. Na we select Kwesi Mensah na no okofo akunwa no. But delegates ebeko no, no makojiska. No more choosing. And it ends there. We had one example. German South. The president beat John Mahama by almost 14,000 votes. But we had an MP who was a deputy minister and lost to NDC about 2,000 votes.
And wechi osan ekasa edifa achame hino mrashibi jefie ehon Kingsford Babin no de to just say achame hino to dana ni refi se we achame hino ya wonye mrashibi dwani na sembi wo no wosi wo jam mrashibi dwafo mu bobo hu kra na waje agina mu a wosi ginaye ama mrashibi dwafo no
Babin is your constituency by MP. And by our laws, Parliament is taking decisions. But they say, I will do this, I will allow this, I will do this. With quite recently, what he said about the finance minister. Niamabuwa, as I say, Uma, I just speak, Ufrewa, Nkrufu, Krabia. Nipa may raise the topic on the floor of the house. Nabi a woman will raise na a big cry, say, okay, say if this is the mind of the house, will be for motion. Then they will pass through the appropriate process and bring the motion. But Osha Niama Oye quite recently Niama P or me pinway so budget me my approve near Yinuma. You
Wakasa Sia your penny Kwejo Eje da Koye Ekane cabinet minister and Wakasa na Professor Stephen Eje Wononso Eye Ekane Dreamteni Edima National Development Planning Commission Eye NDPC Wononso Edia to just say National Cathedral ye among 4 training external abase we see yempe we see yepe we see and on penny one wakasa ni boshe and washe one share no one did ni boshe so ebisu say oye we ya eye Edima Ghana for 90 yen na yenjintum na yentimi buano na wonfanye amofo so mota mampani echi bi so say womo nta na chi na so wono Professor Stephen J echi mo say wono die say National Cathedral wota mampani echi say pintim kwa bi opeso wofa so edisi National Cathedral no wonye ne sabe pepe.
Here we are a country with 70% Christians. And unfortunately, there's nothing that is a symbol of Christianity, not as denominations. And I think that a national cathedral is a good symbol. There has not been undue financial burden on the state. Let me tell you that what those people against the political, what has been spent on them, most likely unduly, what they are getting from their committees and other things will be far more than that. What I'm saying is a very insignificant amount. I will stand up when the government is making budgetary contribution of several millions a year towards it, because I personally think that in the core it should be a Christian community project. That one, I support that one. But there's nothing wrong with the state doing very marginal. And 25 million, do you know that our budget for this year is about 120 reduced to 100 billion. I think that people who think that if the state facilitates the National Cathedral with 25 million, it is much. The people must be living in Alice Wonderland. If the modalities is wrong, it is something that must be addressed, but not talk about the state having squandered money on the National Cathedral. When the president goes about, and sometimes I says that he went to this function. I don't want to mention names because it's not equalization, and he gives 10,000 there, 50,000 there, other things. Did they question it? They don't. And if you are talking about the funeral, the small emergency here, that amount, if you talk about the national cathedral, that is the equivalent of when you hear the vice president somewhere and he contributed 25,000 to that cause. That is the equivalent we are talking about. And they don't criticize that one. Why? Because that is for them to do. I think that we are trying to make.
Now, Professor Stephen Adai, no ena wakasa no say samudi amuta echomu itajono die National Cathedral no wataman penyechi se pintim na Dr. Nyaho Tamakru wono so eye Ghanaian statement wasanso eya manyuni kese pa ewo omaigan nemu wono so e de atodwa sesa wo hwe de ekoso ewo omaigan nemu economy niema ekoso wo NPP amanyuku numa eyo mampeni na nadodan kwakufado weyi nani kura te se ne wo hu de ekoso wo ye mampeni bia wontie ni pasem wosesa wo hwa mampeni fo mba betena abedwa kese so etimi ebu oman no mo oman no etimi akonkan ne titino pa je Kofo abra no woti akonwa kese no so no sabibi koso na amafo hwa ase so mo kasa pe obehu ane se na wasesa ye ne se na amafo no epere na so mampeni na da Kofo ado de yie si ye beka se wi oye bibi na ye beka sa dia fa ho na wasesa na adwen da bida wontie wompo na wo hwe wani mpo na wabetie dia wo pese wo kan wo cheme se mampeni na da Kofo ado wontie ni pasem.
Kofo is a listening president. So far, I don't think Kofo is a listening president. But a lot has happened. Even the recent statement by our Salvo Mafu, I can assure you, if it had been Kofo, he would have fired him. Straight. Because he's creating a problem that will in years develop into something that can destroy this country. Kofo is a listening president. So far, I don't think Kofo is a listening president. Well, not us.
No, Dr. Nyaho Tamakru, no so wakasano. Na National Cathedral ho same year. Eye ba shebe dwenya wono so jemu di ma de hye mo no ton about 1 peso so wono de abeni dom nyina tem bia wakasa e de afa National Cathedral ho wo chemu sem se ne amawfo kasa ne ese ye de sika ma obi se ye mfa sika ma ne ye a twese eye trustee no board of trustee e bi kra hyase a wo modi omodibre ede to se adwuma no kra no wo mu nye biomu na ko wo hwe nim se wo mapani na de dan kwakufado wo beba bontimpo na ko ba be kasa de afa wo se National Cathedral no we me personal pledge me na me ye enye Ghana for de na wo ebinu kra po chemu se ade no se ye hu se ye private eye cathedral say National Cathedral ye hu adekode potin no bi ahwe enim se omanpani beba abontin no abekasa na so wo ma abontin bekasa eno nti somewhere okujeto abrakwa echemu se na omanpani ayedin we kura de na dipefe ese wono akasa de ekoso no enim guase eniwo pa e na aka no eno nti na wo ma abontin bekasa ye.
I'm not surprised he's quiet really because he's embarrassed. He's been exposed. So what really is he going to say? I'm sure he must be filled with shame. Look, the Chief Justice, he's filled with ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development. Because really, when people hear this, you had a Judicial Training Institute, then you bring it down, raise it to the ground, and then you are chasing us for loans. Really? You know, so it's not going well. He's now approached the World Bank. And interestingly, the land that he wants to cite this, the land belongs to SNIT. SNIT is also demanding payment. That is the Cocoa Affairs Court area. Right. Yeah, the land belongs to SNIT. So look at the mess. And then you have the private developers who are also on their way to court. Judgment debt. Top government officials fighting. And you see letters upon letters their lawyers have written. No response. Works and Housing Minister, no response. Lands Minister, National Security, because they are powerful interests. I'm not surprised he's quiet, really, because he's embarrassed. He's been exposed. So what really is he going to say? I'm sure he must be He must be filled.
Penny somewhere Okwijeto Abrakwa wono eye mashibejeni demand shomu nofton abatom peso so ene wakasa no na enane nansa isubrani a eto ye no kopiemu e wata ade dia eyade a ha adwe papa enya asem kuma na amafo bi nim se o nkramponi matemu nkran na nsoto a ha adwe se de ente se biom ta adefo wo so wo gi wo mudi wo honuma enye asem kuma na enane nansa sa wo hwe se na iso yi eto ye na amafo ko edwuma wo mu ntimi ko edwuma na wo mu enam nso ma wo mu di subo ebo mpanifo ne hunkinka hono eyade akwakwa ya rehosem papa na nsentweni a wotu ye kra edifita ade hono wo chereche ye se na nsem no esefa etie e wo hono
Takrade upon St. Mary's Secondary School in Nimho, the Warani main road ofi Takrade Obabesna Yitum the other for Hoyado Lubu, not Tapana Moki Kekao, the Pasu put the year by Yellow Quaco Pay, Ivory Coast, which are your main road Yifima on ye. Now, a walk a cra or yes, St. Mary's Secondary School, our wap on Cacrano. Oh, yeah, last year, say Abakaya, the same report. There, a whole Jira, Sabi, in Sutoka Crabia, all my cara, Warco, no water being Nara, Obiare to that. Now, and the onion side, Sabi, will be best all talk for even Macadam 4 hours simple, or within the 2 hours a pair. Now, so, within the time and soon started all tunnel, not casting between work from in Kaka. Within about 1 hour getting to 2 hours time, not casting now choky and ne beam caught a beam back. Ne sentry there, one Ancasano Peseno, or your waterlogged area, Sutra, Ota Ofi, Ikrobia, Wafraho, or Amon Fukuma, Ohono, your Pano. Men should the door. We should have got to Gumudama. In so other way, drainage, another gutters are Casua. Old go to walk from no one direction. So no, I could pray more Pramodo, Apawa, Bridge Casino, another Sutton Casino, waiting to Alco Gumuno. You can you phone yet the Madna button the Marbury. Which you want to say, so far, no, as yet the Huono, Marine Police, the way to Webo Prewa. One hour, Warabano. Wotum one hour wotin sunumu anam there wajidamenti tinenti wotin sunumu anombre one and Cocrano whether once to pound when one car number one car la pa the chile part into buses na cars okay ka one look at Ivory Coast or look at Tapa or look at Lubege for now ne de me sure do biara botuma akọ chibe what da oye akwan nature oye fitita de ba oye apawan na bada no wo say fi apawan ana guna everybody now can also do all their park worker. Captain Cameron Sunni Narabotchin. But a Jacob Nassara no, you can then soon about to train also in Sunu Budu Town or in apart from there, we go so win sim. Lord Waker and our police of Fundu basic pound, no one waker in Sunday. Apart from that, there's no way a car Yara go to Mabason. No one cross, no one could do Tapa. Ivory Coast, another way see Ivory Coast, another way see Elibu, another Tapa, Waberson will Tapa day. So far, over 4,000, 3,000 cars, meaning Nara Aka. Traffic at Temu 70 town, Mede Accra, Susha, obey the city wager, the Barberton circle. Traffic at Temu.
So e water crade atoye mantemo ene ya boye ye twa hofo ni fefefe e de amawo no ye gina wo nsemu sei na na no pe ka se ye de bra woni ye mfani nyina mfesi ameda wasesa wonya bre ni andaje na wo hwe XTV anopa no ansia kase ohome live e wo Facebook e ye XTVGH e na no pe men fans dan fa ma chichi beauty parlor se men kan show se bebi owo bia wo de bra no wonye wuti ma wonye makeup pedicure ni manicure ni nyina wono ene obetimi aye ne fefefe ede amawo se wo kwa akoye program na opo bie siesie wo ho nso ede amawa frɛ no e wa 0547254078 0547254078 sanso ena yet creation so sebra na wo pamatade fefefe infan show se abofra peni bemma ne emanyama ne nyina wo pam bi e wo ho no meti aye tin so se frɛ no e wa 0242389851 0242389851 ayet sibra na wo pamatade fefefe pa infan show say bia wo baby a wo wie school so opese wo kosua adepama wasi brane chen na obesua obekye ne fefefe mo no nso etime nya ne nsa no nyuma etime aye ena no pe wono mo gina camera ne chi emame eye DJYX abra fit eta ne chi se painting ukopie mu ewo MC a ho nso a de twa metu mu eye low abra Bismarck nso nta ne chi na ne pokunchi nsem nyina go krata so mame mambeke kan edema wo eye Zenab Ahasa na me ameke kan de ma wo nso eye oba pa mavis akosiata me sorry so ma agudie mu nsem menua be ma microphone yata Mr. Mwat wa ye krado papa wodi ebro nti bomadia no afidie no enda ya me da wase emamu enihwe